It's nice to enjoy holidays. The saints and mystics celebrate their holidays every day and every night. When we go to sleep, they go and celebrate their holidays in Sachkhand, their true home. They don't wait for a particular day to come. For them, every night people go to sleep and they go into their own true home and celebrate there. Swamiji, one of the mystics, says that Diwali, the festival of lights, is celebrated in India. It comes only once a year, but the saints' Diwali or festival of lights takes place every night in their own heavenly home. So the holidays for us are confined to a few days over here, but mystics tell us if you want to have true holidays, they can be celebrated every day within yourself. Because your true home, your real place where you belong, where your real consciousness belongs, is inside you and not outside. Whatever we see outside has been created by our consciousness. And therefore, the reality of our own being is inside us. And a true celebration takes place inside us. There's nothing wrong with celebrating outside also, because outside has been created by the same force that exists inside. One mystic says, do not make any distinction between the outside and the inside. They are both arising from the same consciousness. Do not think that the outside creation is something to be run away from, and that the whole truth lies inside. We say go within, not because outside is bad. We say go within because by going within you will find out that the outside and the inside were the same. The outside is being created by the same power of consciousness that creates all experiences inside. If this were not so, the role of a perfect living master in an outside world would be very limited. The truth is that when we find a perfect living master, a human being like ourselves, who has a consciousness of totality, while he is just a human being like us, the fact that such a person can exist in our created illusion of reality outside means that the outside is not as unreal as we think. There is no difference in the level of reality that can be created outside as much as can be created inside. That is why, if we cannot find our own self, if we do not know who we are, we can find ourselves and a true self outside of ourselves in the form of a perfect living master. A perfect living master is part of our perception. We see him, we create him. But we create him with our endowed power from within of total consciousness. Whereas we, sitting with our own mind, cannot think beyond certain limits, a person created by us outside of ourselves can speak to us, talk to us, guide us, and even miraculously take us beyond ourselves as we know ourselves at this time. Therefore, the power of the reality we create outside ourselves is as strong, as magical as the power inside us. This is what gives the importance to a living master that comes into our life outside of ourselves. What really is the consciousness of a perfect living master is our own total consciousness. Our own totality, our own ultimate power, our own ultimate reality is reflected in a human being who comes outside into our life. The outside is set up on certain principles which we call laws of nature, laws of existence. And those laws are operating. And the perfect living master, who is another person coming outside of ourselves within those laws, operates within those laws. And there is no difference A human being who comes as a perfect living master in our life is as human as we are, has the same life as we have. Indeed, if he has come for a specific mission, like if he has come to guide us to a spiritual totality, he will make sure that his life outside is compatible with our life outside. He'll make sure that his language is similar to our language. He will make sure that his lifestyle is similar to our lifestyle. If he has a mandate to take care of several souls who have to be taken back home because they're ready to go back home, they're fed up with the show that they have been experiencing outside in this world, he will take upon himself the role of being equal to or compatible with each one of those souls. If one is rich, he'll be rich for that person. One is poor, he'll be poor for that person. If one lives in a big city, he'll go to the big city for that person. If one lives in a village, he'll go to a village for that person. Depending upon the condition of the seeker, who's seeking the truth and seeking reality, a perfect living master adjusts his own physical life and his own condition to the condition as required by compatibility and equality with the person who has come to seek, who has come to pick up and take back home. This is a remarkable feature. That is why we see, first of all, that masters come in different parts of the world, and they come by mandate to pick up the individuals who are seekers and ready to be picked up at that time in that part of the creation. They do not come just to give a general message. Their mandate is very different from the teachings of the philosophers, teachings of the gurus who come and give us a general message about the truth being inside us, that outside is being created as an illusion, and that if you want to find the truth, go within yourself, that there are various ways of meditating upon yourself, that the power of attention to be concentrated within yourself can give you experiences of higher realities, of different levels of creation, levels of consciousness. These are philosophies. There are these philosophies. People come and teach these philosophies. They are philosophers. They are teachers. They are not perfect living masters. Perfect living masters do not come to convey these teachings. They exist in thousands of books already written. They exist in all historical documents that we have. Perfect living masters come here in human form like ourselves, specifically to pick up those who have been mandated that they will pick up in their lifetime. As the seekers of reality and truth who are fed up with their existence in this world get ready to go back home, these perfect living masters come into their lives and take them back home. Their mandate, their requirement is just to pick up those people. They do not come to change the world. They are not reformers. They do not come and lay any new doctrines. They do not come with any new philosophies. They do not teach any new paths. They go by these simplest of, oldest of paths already recorded in thousands of books in every language of the world. They don't come to write books and to tell us something more. They come specifically to pick up the marked souls who have been brought on their list, that at this time, in this part of the world, in this part of the seeking world, these souls are ready to go back home. They come and look at their list and they go wherever necessary to pick up those marked souls and take them home. So therefore, a human being who comes as a perfect living master into our life has not come to do anything like a philosopher will do. They'll become friends. They will be like us. Their thinking will attune to our thinking. They will deal with our day-to-day problems in this world as if it is their problems. They will come as friends, advisors, counselors, brothers, sisters. They'll take up these relationships and they'll function at the same level that we seekers are functioning, because their purpose is to take us back home. And as we understand them better, they use the only method they have always used throughout the history of creation. They use the method of love and devotion to take us back home. There is no other method. All other methods, meditation, spiritual disciplines, dieting, following certain rules, are all meant for our minds. Our minds love rules. Our minds are only convinced if we have rules to follow. Therefore, they go ahead and lay down the rules for our minds, so that minds can be satisfied. This looks like a spiritual path. This looks like a mystical path. I am willing to follow it. I have to rationalize it. The mind wants to rationalize. They allow you to rationalize it. They give you a framework in which your mind has to be satisfied. Because if your mind is not satisfied, and the soul has been entangled with the mind for millions of years, there is no way that the soul will turn around and go back home. The mind is looking outward all the time to find answers to all its questions. It looks for answers outside in this physical world. It looks for answers in the intellectual world. It looks for answers in the world of logic. Looks for answers in the world of rationality. And always want to say, this makes sense, therefore I'm willing to follow. If it doesn't make sense, I will not follow it. The soul has no such requirement. Our reality has no such requirement. Our truth and reality is our soul, not our mind. A mind is an accessory added to the soul. It was used for a very good purpose, to add to the soul, so the soul could communicate, could experience, could create a reality in time and space. It was the most useful gadget the soul was ever given. If a soul, which is pure consciousness, which is pure life, which is our pure self, if our own self was given such a beautiful gadget, like a mind, that could create different experiences in time and space, place them in a certain chronological order, connect each experience with the other by a law of cause and effect, what a beautiful thing it can do. A mind that could create sensory perceptions, a mind that could create an astral body and a sensory system, a mind that could create the illusion of being covered, the self being covered by a physical body. What else did you need? It was the most magical device ever given to a soul. Soul was pure consciousness. It could be conscious of anything it wanted. But what would it be conscious of? What creation will be around a soul if it didn't have these gadgetries around it? And the mind was the best gadget it could get. So the mind created this wonderful opportunity for experiences. And the soul went along with the mind and enjoyed it. But the mind had some other traits too, deliberately created. The other traits were negativity. Other traits were to have a desire for attachment, desire for variety of experiences, and the desire for going out into shadows and illusions and make them reality, and look upon them as reality. An old Greek philosopher, Aristotle, he says the importance of a show, importance of a drama, a stage show. Now I could even add a movie that we go and watch. The importance of seeing a show, the importance of seeing a movie is that it can draw our inmost feelings out. And although we know it's a shadow, although we know these people are only acting, they are not real, it's not a real show going on, it's just an act. In spite of the fact we know that they are only acting, it brings out real emotions, real feelings in us, as if something real is happening. This capacity of the mind to suppress even the knowledge that it's a show and to make it into a reality and experience emotional, intellectual, and spiritual feelings through an unreal show is a great talent that was given to this mind. And that's exactly what the mind did. That we were able to create realities around ourselves. And even knowing they have just been created, we took them as so real in order to have real spiritual, mental, sensory, physical experiences. So the mind was a very useful thing. But the negative side of it was it got attached to whatever it created. And by attachment, it would be tied up with that. It almost created a trap for itself. Like a spider's web, it began to create experiences to which it got attached. And from the attachment, it was difficult to pull it away. It loved pleasure. It loved different sensory experiences. And therefore, the mind tied us over and over again to the different experiences it created and made it very difficult for the soul to find out who it really was, because it always functioned in this creation through the mind. So we have to distinguish between the accessory called the mind, functioning to create experiences for us, from our own self, which is the soul, which is the spirit of consciousness alone, per se. It does not have anything in it that constitutes time, space, cause, effect, karma, morality, good, bad, doesn't have any of that stuff. Our soul is pure consciousness, having the ability to be aware of, to be conscious of anything it wants. It uses the mind to create the kind of experiences we are having. So the mind as a device has created a little problem for us. The problem is that we have identified ourselves. We do not think we are the soul or the spirit of consciousness. We think we are the mind. Philosophers began to say, I think, therefore I am. It is not at all correct. It was, the truth was, I am, therefore I have a mind and I can think. It is the use of the mind that makes you think. It's not that consciousness itself is thinking, it uses a device. And the device is the mind. But by identifying ourselves with the mind and considering that because we are a thinking machine, therefore the thinking machine is the self, we got into all the trouble that the mind could create through desire and attachment. According to Buddha, the entire suffering of a human being is arising from desire and attachment. There's nothing else. It's all mind made up. Mind has made up all this. The mind has created desires for experiences it's generated, got attached to them, and then we are pulled back into those experiences again and again. Therefore, I can't see of any way in which, situated as we are, identifying ourselves with the mind, and not only with the mind, but with the functions of the mind, such as sensory perceptions, we begin to identify that the perceptions are our own self, that the world is merely what we think we are perceiving, that there is nothing else except what we are perceiving through our senses. Not only that the sensory perceptions are built into a physical body. We are identifying ourselves 3 steps away from reality. Who we are, we don't know, because we think that's us. Wrong. We think the sensory perceptions are creating the world for us, therefore the perceptions are us. Wrong. Because they're embedded in a physical body which we generate outside of the system, therefore we are the physical body. Wrong. We're making 3 big mistakes. And by making these 3 big mistakes, we have moved away from our own self. And we really don't know who we are. So it's great that these physical things contain something, that the physical experience which ties us down also contains something that can push us back into a knowledge of our own self. And what is that which the physical experience contains? A human being, like ourselves, who comes in the form of a perfect living master and pushes us back into our knowledge of the self. A perfect living master never comes to say, follow me and follow me in the world. He says, go within yourself. He says, I am merely a reflection of your own consciousness. A perfect living master has no identity of its own. It's being projected in the same way as the rest of the creation, with one difference. We have invested this particular projection of a perfect living master with a consciousness which is our own totality of consciousness. That's a big thing, that we can set up a show. We can set up characters in the show and put one character there which has all the knowledge, all the consciousness of the original creator of the whole show. And he's just one character. Sometimes we give an example from a little literary work called the Canterbury Tales. Some of you have heard this story from me before. Some of you may not have heard that Geoffrey Chaucer, an English author, he wrote a book called the Canterbury Tales. It was a story of a number of pilgrims, 20 or 30 pilgrims are going to Canterbury. And in those days, in the 17th century, when the story was written, there were no easy modes of transportation. So they went on horses, on little buggies, on little carts, and on foot. They all walked, the whole pilgrim party walking, and to while away the time, it takes several days to reach Canterbury, they're telling stories to each other, singing songs, reciting poems. And when they're doing that, this whole story has been written by Geoffrey Chaucer. Chaucer introduces himself also as a character. And he says amongst the pilgrims, he's also walking. Chaucer is also walking amongst the pilgrims. And those pilgrims come out with some of the finest poetry that we have known in English literature. They come out with some of the finest descriptions of a character. Because of that, we call Chaucer the father of modern novel. There was no novel before him. He characterized people, because before that, there was a king and a queen, and every king and a queen were the same. All the stories that were written before that, every king was a king and every queen was a queen, every layman was a layman, every clown was a clown. Whatever name you gave to the character, he was only that character. But Chaucer introduced specific qualities in a character, calling it a characterization. For example, there's a lawyer, an attorney also in that pilgrims. And this is how Chaucer describes that attorney. He says, a busier man than him there gnaws. Gnaws means never was in Old English. A busier man than him there gnaws, and yet he seemed busier than he was. Looks like a modern attorney. This was a characterization. He describes a woman, a wife who was traveling from Bath, a town in England. He says there was that wife from Bath. Husbands at kirk, she had 5. That means husbands at church, she had 5. Without other company in youth, but I need not talk of that youth. That means besides other company she had in young times, I am not going to talk about that. This kind of description of a character had never taken place earlier. This is like the setting of a modern new story that you see in the movies. New story you read in the modern novels. So Chaucer is being credited as being a character writer, that he created the concept of characters. And then he puts himself, Chaucer the character. Chaucer the author is now Chaucer the character. And he's also moving along with them. These great poets, these great storytellers are asking Chaucer, the character, come on, you also tell us a story. Come on, give us a poem. And Chaucer says, I don't know any poetry. A man who has written the whole book, the man who has written the part of every character, when he becomes a character, he says, I don't know what to say. They said, come on, we know you are a good author. They even identify him in the story. We know you are a good author. And we know you can be a good poet. Come on, give us a good poem. And then Chaucer, the character, in that book, Canterbury Tales, comes out with the worst rhyme in the whole book. It is the worst poem in the whole book. And not only that he knew about it, all the characters criticize him. Oh no, we expected something better from him. Question has been asked, why did Chaucer, the author of the book, when he became a character, why did he put himself in such a low position that he could be ridiculed by his own characters? In fact, a simile has been given to the religious concept of Jesus Christ, who came as one with his Father, the Creator, comes and is crucified by his own creation. Chaucer as a character was crucified by his own characters whom he created. Why did he do that? Why should he have done that? He did it because, in spite of the fact that Chaucer the character read a very poor poem, it is Chaucer the author who wrote all the poems. When perfect living masters come into this world, they come like Chaucer the character. They come and they become the same level. They can be ridiculed. They can be criticized. They can be crucified. People can make accusations against them. People can take them for trials. They go through all that. Why? Because they know they are just a character acting at the same level as the people they are dealing with, the people who are on their marked list of sheep to be taken home. And they are the author of the entire show. Yesterday, I opened a book at random to see what is the coincidental message of the day. I sometimes do that. And when you open a book at random, a message comes up. I opened up a book, it had poetry from Swamiji of Agra, who was the founder of the Radha Swami movement and in the last century, and he was very famous. And the poem I read was very interesting. He says, the merciful Dayal, that means the one who comes in the form of a merciful mystic, is one with the same creator who creates the negative Kal. And he says, how come that the ultimate creator, who's sending a messenger of his, who's sending a personification of his as a perfect living master, should also be the creator of all the negative minds, negative Kal, negative time, negative things that are happening? And then he says, speaking on behalf of Sat Purush, the creator of Dayal, he says, I created both Dayal and Kal. Had I not created the negative things here, nobody would have appreciated me at all as Dayal. He says the whole purpose of creation in two parts, in duality, was for a soul, consciousness to experience the opposite. You could have no idea about love and compassion if there was nothing negative to be created at the same time. Therefore, he says, I created both sides. That's the way you can appreciate the other side. This is in a big way. And he says, when I created a copycat, Kal, who should copy my design, I designed that I should have positive attributes which you should appreciate after going through negative experiences. My copycat, Kal, he copied that and divided his own realm, the realm of the mind, into good and bad, and divided everything into white and black, into dark and light, and made every experience possible to human beings through sensory perceptions into duality. That you could have no experience in this world if it wasn't into pairs of opposites. So therefore, this whole concept of creating a show which should add beauty, should add compassion, should things which we really think are very high, should the element of love as a very important segment. It was not possible if the whole show had not been set up the way it was set up. The author set up the show, comes himself as a character in the form of a perfect living master, and operates at the same level as the characters. And when those characters, by the force of the show itself, are ready to go back home, he takes them home. It's a wonderful story. It's a true story. It's a story of creation and story of the work of perfect living masters. A story of the self, of consciousness. Perfect living master is no other than the totality of consciousness. And we are all participating in the totality of consciousness. We look separated. That's part of the show. We are different. We belong differently. We are different bodies, different thoughts, different minds. These differences have been created. But they are created where? They are all created within an ocean of consciousness, which is always one. It has never been separated. You will discover, even by following the path of these perfect living masters who take you back to reality, that ultimately there is only one consciousness, one creator, one experiencer, and all the experiences of the many are taking place within that one. There never has been anything outside of it. The many have been created within the one. What would happen if any one of us sitting here got an awareness of who we are? If we suddenly discovered that we are not this physical body, just a cover upon ourselves, that we are not the sensory perceptions, they are just instruments we are using to perceive a drama created outside of ourselves. If we suddenly discover that the thoughts we were having are merely churning out of a certain stream of words, stream of images by a machine we have installed in ourselves, that we are beyond all these three, that we are totality of consciousness, what would be our experience? we suddenly experience that everything that we have ever experienced or will experience is taking place within one totality, and that's our true self. That our true self has never been more than one. Everything that has happened which creates the experience of the many is taking place within the one. Nothing has ever happened outside of it. Nothing can happen outside of it. That's a great revelation. Perfect living masters come into this world not to teach us new morality. They do not come to teach us the way to live. They do not come to teach us how to reform your political systems. They do not come to teach you how to reform your social systems. They come to show you that you can, while you're trapped in these bodies, while you're trapped in your sensory systems, while you're trapped in your mind, you can still have the experience of who you are. And that experience is generated by first that totality appearing within the show as a perfect living master, as a human being outside of yourself, and then going within yourself stage by stage, darja ba darja, as great master would say, step by step, you discover your own reality. And the ultimate reality you find at all times, there was only one consciousness. The show of the many took place in one alone, and we are participating in the one, that we've never been separated. Our reality is that one. All rest is created, all rest is illusion. This is a great opportunity that is provided to every seeker. Whoever seeks to find the truth can find it. How do you find it? By going within. How do you go within? By discovering a person outside in your life who has gone within. And a person that you discover outside your life who has gone within will take you only as far as he has gone. He can't take you more. And the difficulty is that in this subject of spiritual awareness, every level that we perceive looks like the final level. People get a little glimpse of something and they say this is reality. People have different kind of journeys and they have inner experiences. Some people have experiences by knocking at the doors of different chakras below. People take drugs and say they get extra sensory perceptions, they get extra experiences. Whatever they do, every experience looks to them as if it is the final experience beyond the physical. Therefore, there are limitations. Every teacher, every master of every kind has a limit to what he can teach you, where he can take you. Most of these I have discovered. I just celebrated my 84th birthday and you are coming and saying happy birthday to me. 84 years is a lot of time, in a physical world in one body to research this thing. And my research has shown that 99.9% of the teachers who are today teaching us what is spiritual are teaching us what lies within the mind and created universe outside. They've given us different levels. They give us the inner experiences. They give us journeys into the unknown. But it's all up to the level of time, space, and the mind. The number of perfect living masters who can tell us that the reality of your own self is not divided at all, it lies beyond the mind, is so few. At all times you can count it on the number of fingers on your hands. It's so little. So therefore, it's not possible by doing a research and going into a list of spiritual teachers. You can go on internet and say thousands of teachers are there teaching the same thing. In every country, in fact in India if you go, there are more teachers than students today. And great master used to say, the guruship has grown so much that there are more gurus than chelas. So that is why people are teaching everything, but the teaching is not what the perfect living masters take us to. They do not come here to teach. They come here to take us back home. It's a big distinction between the two. Teaching they follow because others are doing the teaching. They follow a format for their work of taking us back home by following what the format is going on in the universe around. And our mind will not accept other formats. Therefore, they give a long rope to us. They say, go ahead, follow this, follow that also. Is this better for you? Go ahead with that. You are following something else? Go ahead with that also. They do not discourage us. Anything they feel is taking us towards the realization of who we are inside, they encourage. They do not even say, oh, don't first find out a perfect guru and then follow him. They say, follow any guru who tells you, follow any teacher who tells you to go within themselves. Because they know that every one of these people who come into our life and guide us towards our own inner self is taking a step towards their path. But to take us beyond our own mind to our own reality is left to the privilege of the perfect living masters, who themselves operate from beyond the mind and can take us beyond the mind to our own reality. That is why the qualification required to find a perfect living master is a very simple one. It's an earnest desire to seek. If you are a seeker in your heart, in your mind, and you are seeking the truth because you are fed up with the untruth, if you are seeking the reality because the show you have been through is too messy, is too bad, you're done with it, you're fed up with it, if you are in that state and you're seeking, you're bound to find a perfect living master eventually. That's the system. There is no other way to find a perfect living master except through seeking. If you think that you can judge by the qualifications of a human being and find out who is a perfect living master, I tell you, you are a master yourself then. Then you are as good as that perfect living master. If you have such a knowledge that you can say this person is a perfect living master. Because a perfect living master will never say I am a master. He will not even exhibit the qualities of some of these qualified psychics and qualified people who are showing extrasensory perception and doing street miracles. He won't even do that. He doesn't have to. That's not his job. His job is to pick up the seeker and divulge to the seeker who he is and take him back home. So therefore, it is not that we find a master. There is no way we can find a master. I know no way in which a human being with a sharp intellect can ever find a master. He'll keep on analyzing and say, this one has these characteristics, this one doesn't. He's too ordinary to be a master. This one, no, I asked him something, he didn't have the answer, not a master. Your checklist of what our intellect tells us could be a master is so faulty that we cannot see where the love lies, where love and devotion can take us. The mind is incapable of love and devotion. Only the spirit can love. Therefore, when you use the mind exclusively to search for a master, you fail. But a master can find you. The truth is that every person I have met in my life who has been able to get initiated by a perfect living master has been found by the master. By series of coincidences in life, series of steps that have gone into their life, different levels through which they passed, different kind of seekings they had, different kind of disappointments they had, different kind of pain and suffering they had in the physical world, all added up to their being ready. And when they were ready, by coincidence, a person comes along and happens to be the perfect living master, and they enable that seeker very quickly, in spite of the objections of the mind, to find out this was a master. So this is something, it is not based upon intellectual or rational principles. It's based upon the intensity of inner seeking. If you seek intensely, a master will come and pick you up. Of course, the mind will question, mind will doubt, because apart from the function of thinking that the mind has been given, it has also been given the function of putting things together, creating logical sequences, and therefore the mind has to question everything. By questioning everything, it is a great generator of doubts, and therefore it doubts everything. If you give a clear indication to the mind, this is it, there must be catch in it. Let me find out what the catch is. The skepticism is built into the mind, and therefore the mind will create doubts. And what follows from the doubts is fear. Once you have a doubt, you also have fear. So doubt and fear seems to be a subsidiary function of the mind. Not very good for a spiritual seeker, but that's what comes in the way. Even when a seeker, with intense seeking from his soul and his spirit, comes across a person, a human being who happens to be a perfect living master, the mind will create these doubts and create these fears. And to overcome them, it takes time, but the method perfect living masters use is first go along with you. To satisfy your mind, put it aside. Okay, what are your questions? Here are the answers. Okay, you got some answers? Okay, any more questions? Yeah, I have more. Okay, gradually say, what questions am I asking? What is the relevance of these questions? My seeking is deeper than these questions. What am I trying to satisfy myself for? Then comes the path that you get trapped. Then you have no questions. Then you only feel, this guy has some kind of a love which I haven't experienced before. The difference in the love that a master can give us is that it is unconditional. It is not based upon our reciprocity. It is not based upon what we do. A master, if he is a perfect living master, will allow us to experience love which is unconditional. You don't experience because you love the master. You may hate the master. If you're on his list, you will experience unconditional love from that master. You can do whatever you like, you still experience unconditional love from a master. That distinguishes that human being from all other human beings. And therefore, gradually, you come to realize this is a different connection we have. This is something different happening to us. And that's when the revelation comes. And then following the instructions, a master gives merely to satisfy our mind and to satisfy the sensory and bodily functions of us. He says, do meditation, follow these disciplines, follow this. Mind says, that looks very sensible. You must get something by doing these things. And if we follow that, eventually we discover that none of them was necessary except the love and devotion and connection with the master through that affection that he was giving us. The mind would not accept it. So the master takes us through a series of steps which ultimately lead to a faith built upon the love we are experiencing. The faith is not built upon the other experiences we are having. Then we are having experiences here which are self-created to keep up the show in working order. The show of creation in the physical world has to be kept in working order, and one law alone has been able to achieve that. Orderliness of this show has been achieved by one law, and that's called the law of karma. It's a wonderful law. If I had to design a law for any kind of created universe, I couldn't find a better one than that. The law of karma states very simply, whatever you do willfully with your intention, you must reap the consequences. Do good, you get a reward. Do bad, you are punished. Do good and bad, you are rewarded and punished. It's not that one cancels the other. You never cancel anything. This law is so beautiful. This law completely perpetuates the creation. It makes the creation permanent because you can do whatever you like and you come up for the consequence of it. So you stay here. No way to escape. There could be never a bigger prison house, a better designed trap than the law of karma. And one law has been used to perpetuate and create this universe in this form that whatever you do, you're trapped here. You can't get out. You can achieve very high status by continuously doing good things. You can reach status of the creator of the universe at a certain level. They said that Krishna, one of the avatars of Vishnu, the god of sustenance in Hindu religion, in the Hindu pantheons of gods, Vishnu is considered to be the sustainer of the universe, and he comes in the form of avatars who come as incarnations of that god to take care of the world. That is what the Indian books say. According to that, one of the avatars, well-known avatars, was Krishna. We call him Lord Krishna. Worship him. We worship Krishna. Many people in Hawaii, in Honolulu, are saying Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. At airport, they used to say that. You might have heard that. That Krishna, when he was very young, he had awareness that he had come to sustain and to see the sustenance of the world, that the world was running according to the law of karma. And therefore, even at a very young age, he is speaking to a friend of his called Udo. And that's a very famous saying of his. He tells the young boy, Udo, Krishna himself is a young man. He says, Udo, karman ki gat nyari se, that the nature of karma is very, very rare and very difficult to find out. And then he points out to an ant crawling on the ground. He said, Udo, see this ant crawling on this ground? It's taken the form of an ant. It has once been Brahma, the creator of this universe. At one time it was also head of one of the heavens called Indra, and he has been heading that heaven. Law of karma got him those positions, and the law of karma brought him back as an insect now. The law of karma is such relentless that you can reach the highest level, be running as a creator of the universe, then become an insect. He pointed out that the law of karma is such relentless law. It has made this universe perpetual. It has made this creation perpetual. This creation is as permanent as the creator now. And when you dissolve this creation, you set the seeds for a new creation on the same law. So this law of karma binds us here. It's a mental law. It's a law that the mind recognizes. All judicial laws of different countries have been framed on that basis. They're framed on the same basis. You do good, you are rewarded. You do bad, you are punished. And the punishment will be according to how bad you are. And what makes good and bad, your mind makes it what is good or bad. Like Shakespeare says, there's nothing either good or bad, your mind makes it good or bad. Our own conscience, which is an aspect of the mind, the mind's aspect called conscience, says this is good, this is bad. We trap ourselves with that. There is no way to get out of all this. And nobody can tell us how to get out of this except one who is operating outside this whole system. And what is outside the system? Our soul, our consciousness, even now, while we are sitting here, talking to each other, is lying in the realm beyond this system, beyond the mind. But we are trapped because we identify ourselves with the mind, we identify ourselves with the senses, we identify ourselves with the body, and we are trapped here. The perfect living masters, even when they are in human form in our life, while they are talking to us as human beings, they are in touch with their consciousness beyond the mind. They are in touch with the reality while they are talking to us as human beings. Therefore, there's a very big difference in an association with such people. When you associate with them, the very presence of somebody who at the very time that we are with them is talking with knowledge of total consciousness in which you and that person both are included. When you see a perfect living master in a human body, you are not seeing a person, you are seeing your own self and that person together. But you can't see that, you are seeing only the outside. But the perfect living master is seeing both. He is seeing you in your totality, himself in his totality, and there is no difference in the two. Look at the viewpoint. Look at what the viewpoint of a master of that kind would be. When we come across such a person, he's looking at us and looking at the world. Imagine what he's seeing. He's seeing oneness. He's seeing himself. He's seeing how the show has been set up. He sees how different individuated souls created to experience different points of view of the same consciousness are operating, and how some are ready to go back to the totality, some are still working here. He sees that. Therefore, when we come across a person like that, and he says, I accept you. Your name is on my list. As a human being, I've come here, I had a limited list. Because I didn't come for trillions and trillions of souls who are scattered in the universe. I came for a limited number who were ready. I came with that. Other human beings will come. They've always come. Human beings will always come endowed with this capacity of retaining their total consciousness, and they will be called perfect living masters, and they'll pick up the souls that are on their list. They are marked souls. They are like a shepherd come to collect his marked sheep. It's like that. So therefore, when a person who's a perfect living master comes and accepts him, we call that acceptance initiation. We say to get initiated by a perfect living master is the greatest thing that can happen. I believe that. I believe there is no event in human life or any life that can compare with this. I don't know any event whatsoever that compare with a perfect living master, with that consciousness coming into our life and saying, I accept you for initiation. Changes everything. It has changed everything from that moment. Your life has undergone the biggest possible change. You are no longer bound by the laws of karma. You're no longer bound by anything that attaches you here. Everything is now being governed by totality of consciousness operating through a master who then manifests in your local consciousness, even in your physical consciousness. He manifests. And on a daily basis, we begin to see events happening in outside show. This must be the hand of the master. This is a miracle happening for me. That's a great coincidence that happened. Even little things like that keep on happening, and we attribute it to the master because he is now involved. He's got totally involved. He has taken you out of the normal laws of karma. You have a huge accumulation of karma. I sometimes mention to you how big the reserve we have built of karma over centuries and centuries of reincarnation, and that can create millions of future lives. When a perfect living master initiates you, he burns and destroys all that reserve karma. There is no reserve karma to create any future lives. So therefore the very law which sustains and perpetuates this universe is being broken at that time. And you have only a few karma of this life left. And the few decisions you are making with your mind, with your so-called free will in this life, that's the only karma left. It's a very big change. And then after that, you say, I am going to do my duty, I am going to do these things. The master says, why worry? I have accepted you. I'll do all that for you. Do you know that if you are initiated by a perfect living master, and you say, Master, now I'm initiated, do everything for me. I want to do nothing. He'll do it for you. Everything that you can think of, conceive of, he can do. The mind doesn't accept it. The mind and our external circumstances don't accept it. We keep on saying, Master, I want to do it, give me help. I can do a little bit, you'd give me some support in this. Master says, go ahead. Okay, whatever you think you can do, go ahead. It's so difficult for us to surrender in the early stages of our experiences on the spiritual path, to surrender to a power that has taken over control, that has taken over responsibility, that has taken over everything. And therefore, as time grows and you discover that what you're trying to do, what your struggle is, what your duties are, and you are performing them, behind that, the master is putting his hand, okay, you need a little push here, give you a little push here. You have to go through some karma, old karma, but only for this life. All right, I'll help you. If it is too hard, let me know. I'll try to wangle some little elements of it and change it. It's a great relationship. Do you know, I have not found any greater relationship of two friends except one, a disciple and his master. They're the best of friends. There is no real friendship like that. A friendship where you feel that you stand for each other. A friendship where you feel you are at the same level and equal. It's the most beautiful relationship. One of my colleagues who was a disciple of great master, beautiful man, he was a veterinary doctor. I tell you his stories many times. In smaller groups one day I will tell you more stories. His name was Dr. Ishwar Singh. He came to the conclusion, after wonderful experiences with his master, he came to the conclusion that a perfect living master becomes a friend first, master next, not the other way around. Don't think that he's a master first and then he becomes friendly. Not at all. He says he's a friend first, then he reveals he's a master. So therefore this friendship, that the feeling that you can do things common, you can share in each other's work. He reduces his work. A perfect living master comes and start working in this world. He can run. One master was weaving all his life. Amongst his disciples were rich multimillionaires who said, give up the weaving loom. You don't need it. He said, I need it. I need it to work with people who are working in the same way. Another one was a cobbler. mending shoes. He remained a cobbler, and kings were sitting at his feet and following him. He says, you don't need, you can come to our palace and live there. No, it's necessary for me to be a cobbler because I have to be friends with people who only can accept me as a cobbler, not in the royal palace. The masters come and engage themselves in activities in the physical world which match the activities of their disciples. And therefore they become friends. So this friendship is so important. That itself changes one's life. I have said so many things about creation. I have said things about things big beyond the mind. The rational mind can say, you're making up these stories. I can. Anybody can make stories. Maybe nothing exists. Maybe there's no such thing as any higher region. Maybe this is the whole thing. Materialists believe. The materialism believes this is the whole thing. Right here, everything else is just imaginary, made up by us. Okay, maybe it is. If I were to go along and say, yes, this is all material thing, even then, I say the story I made up is very good, made me so happy, took care of everything, all my life changed just by a story. It's a very good story then. But in the story, in the process of making a story, I found a friend who was a perfect friend. A friend from whom I experienced unconditional love. I never experienced that without the story. So story is very fundamental. It doesn't matter what your faith about the story is or not. It's the experience that you have with a man like that that convinces you this is something different going on. It's not the level of knowledge, intellectual knowledge that will tell you who a perfect living master is. It's the experience with that master that will tell you who he or she is. Therefore, this path is a path of love and devotion and friendship. It gives you an experience of true friendship, gives you experience of true love. It gives you experience of unconditional love, which is otherwise extremely rare. I can't find it. I go, people say we are, what do they call it? We are souls, what are they called?
Soulmates.
Soulmates. They call themselves soulmates. We are one soul, we became soulmates, and we found true love. And after 3 months, they are in a divorce court. And I say, what happened to the soulmate stuff? Though we knew from day one we were not made for each other. But that's the day when you told me you are soulmates. What happens? We discover that the mind creates doubt, the mind creates fear all the time in every relationship, including with the master. How can you rely upon that mind to discover the truth about love and devotion? Therefore, it's the master's unconditional love that awakens in us that response that we can recognize that there is something more real than we have ever known, and that reality is beyond our minds. I have given you these stories because they arise from my experience. I am not giving you a single story from a book, except I did quote a couple of things. But the fact that perfect living masters function like this is based upon my experience with a man, human being, a white-haired man. He called the great master. It's the experience with that man that makes all this possible for me. I have no doubt that if this has been made possible for me, an ordinary person like me, in ordinary circumstances, where I came from, where I grew up, what I've gone through, I look back upon my life, and if one ordinary person with a white beard can do this to me, I am quite sure it can do to all of you if you come across a perfect living master with your own seeking in your own heart. You don't have to shout. To get to a perfect living master, don't have to shout, don't have to, it's all internal. Just be intense with your seeking. Say, Master, I am done with this. I am done with this messy stuff that we call life here. And I want to move on. I want to move on to more real things. Master, I don't know where the ultimate reality is. I want to move at least one step forward. Ultimately, take me where you are. And the master will take you exactly where he is. A master never takes you, a perfect living master never takes you to a level below himself. If he comes from totality of consciousness, he'll put you in touch with totality of consciousness. If you merely follow his ordinary instructions in this physical life, He'll take you right within this life. If you have problems and difficulties because of your mind and your excuses, I have other problems, it's very difficult to do it, he may give you another chance. But he will take you back to the same level where he belongs. So when I come to celebrate a holiday with you like this, I think this is a celebration of being with a master. I think it's celebration, we call it Christmas, or other names we give it to the holidays. This is because we remember people who were enlightened, people who had gone beyond our own level of experience, people who had spread love in this world. We are remembering them. I know that a lot of the Christmas season is, in this country particularly, is buying and giving of gifts, presents. And some people love to buy presents, love to give presents, and more than that, love to receive presents. But some of them are under hardship. I meet people who say, oh my God, again Christmas time has come. I don't have the money enough to buy all the presents. My list is 50 people. Now, you're not making a holiday out of it. You're making a pressurized celebration, which you are trying to force yourself to follow. And then I find, I have nobody to celebrate Christmas with. I can't live like this. I'm going to commit suicide. You commit it? I was shocked to hear that the suicide rate is the rate of suicides in this country is the highest during the holidays. Because people are more lonely and they see that the rest of the year they can spend without anybody around, running around clubs and internet and whatever. But during the Christmas holiday, they need physical presence. It's not there. And they think it's so bad to be alone. It is so bad that it's worth ending your life. Look at the different sides of this holiday. It's not all as glorious as we think it is. Look at me. I have been traveling around. I've been meeting people. For several years, I have not had an opportunity to be alone. I sometimes wish I could have a holiday where I can be just alone. And people say, are you foolish? It was stupid to be alone? You all want company. Every few years, some people who know me for a long time, they know that every few years I used to have a break of 2 or 3 days and just go and hide myself alone with no contact with anybody and enjoy it. Well, nobody seems to be enjoying that anymore here. They say we are lonely, we are missing somebody. And these holidays we miss even more. So if you are on the spiritual path, if you are really on the spiritual path, I can tell you one other thing, a secret. You can never be alone. If you are initiated by a perfect living master and has followed simple instructions to manifest the presence of that master within you, which we call manifesting the radiant form of the master within. If you can do that much, you can never be alone. You're always at the company of the master. It's a beautiful, and you will have the company in the same way like you have the physical world, even more than that. You travel together, you talk to each other, you have all kind of beautiful experiences together, you fly wherever you like together, no aeroplanes needed. There's so many things one does just by having a perfect living master in one's life. I think that's a true celebration of a holiday. I wish all of you enjoy that kind of holiday. And you all fly in the upper skies, in the regions that lie beyond the physical skies. And they're all available to you. They just represent different levels of consciousness. This world is not created in one level. It's been created, it's almost like you open up one, then another one opens up. It's like the peeling of the onion. You keep on taking off, there's something else inside it. You take one cover off, there's another one. This world is created like that. The physical world is merely one thing. You withdraw your attention from the physical world, put it inside you in the seat of consciousness, from where everything is being experienced. Just go back there, get rid of the awareness of this world, another one opens up. Different, more wonderful than this. And you withdraw from there, open up, another world opens up. Ultimately, you can keep on doing this endlessly, in the company of a master, in the company of one who knows that route of opening layers of consciousness. You go with them, ultimately you come to the total reality where there was no two, no one, there was no number, It was just totality of consciousness in which the show of creation took place, which the show of being conscious took place. And that's the ultimate aim of these perfect living masters, to take anyone who's initiated by them to that level of reality. Once you have that reality, it doesn't mean that you lost other levels. Indeed, you have got all the levels if you reach that reality. If you are following a meditational program of a perfect living master, he tells you to go stage by stage. You withdraw your attention from here, shut off this experience, become unaware of the physical world in your own body where consciousness is operating, open up another world. Step one. When you have that experience, you're not having experience of this physical world. It's just like a dream state. When you go to sleep at night, you cut off the experience of this physical world. You go to bed, close your eyes, and you go into a dream state, which is another world opening up. At that time, in the dream, you're running around, you're doing things. You're not aware that you're lying in a bed sleeping. You cut off the awareness of the wakeful state because you go on into dream state. Similarly, when you withdraw your attention from the wakeful state by a deliberate process of not going to sleep, but opening up another world, you go into a state of a world which is very different, follows different laws. Laws of time and space are different. Laws of gravity don't apply. Many laws of the physical universe don't apply. It's a different kind of life there, and yet it's a highly populated place with a bigger time span of creation than you have here. The Big Bang has not affected that state. Therefore, you go into another world. But while you are in that world, this is not there. You're withdrawn from it. You can go to another world, still higher than that, into a world where all the concepts came up from, where the whole beginning of this creation of the mind took place. It's a separate world altogether. You have left the physical world, you left that astral sensory world and opened up a new one. It's a separate world. But while you are in that world, you don't have any access to the physical world. You've withdrawn yourself from here. You go still higher, go beyond the mind, and you discover that you are pure consciousness. You are the soul. The rest was all created to help you to have experience. When you go into that, it's a new world. But when you have the world of the spiritual self, you have no access to the world of the physical, or the world of the astral or sensory, or the world of the mind. You're withdrawn from there. But when you go to the totality of consciousness, all the five worlds come back to you. That is why the perfect living masters, when they are with us, at one time, at the same time, they are experiencing all the levels of the consciousness. Not only they are experiencing it, they are working at all the levels. They are working with their souls who are on a marked list in the physical world. They are working with souls who have been with them much longer in the astral plane. They are working with souls who are still stuck up on the conceptual stage. And they are working with souls on the spiritual stage. They are working at the same time, and their awareness has opened up to all the five levels at once. You can have that too. But it only happens when you reach totality and not at the intermediate stages. That is why there's a very big distinction between the experience of a perfect living master who's got all the five stages awareness open and he flips from one to the other as he likes at the same time, than from us who can at one time have only one level of experience, which is our reality of that time. Today, at this time, a physical world, physical awareness created by a physical body is our only reality. You know the reality, everything else is imaginary. Dreams are imaginary, astral is imaginary, Sachkhand is imaginary, heavens are imaginary. The only real thing is physical reality. When we go to another level, that becomes the only reality, everything else becomes imaginary. Therefore, when you reach the fifth final stage of totality of consciousness, you find nothing was real anywhere. They were all realities created by us, and you can tap into any reality at any time. It's a very different experience. That is why perfect living masters say, don't rest content with any kind of spiritual progress unless you go to totality. Great master used to say, my teacher, my master used to say, his path, his spiritual path begins from Par Brahm above the mind and goes to totality. The rest he says is just preparation for the path. He thought going up to universal minds and going into astral stages and stages of discovery of time and space is all preparation for the real journey. His journey was that high. I congratulate so many of you sitting here for this holiday, initiates of perfect living masters. And I feel very privileged to be in such a good company of people who are already accepted and we are fellow travelers. We are going to the same destination. And this is a celebration for me. I come to you with celebration of this kind. Exchange gifts, exchange presents, exchange pleasantries also. Don't commit suicide. Enjoy yourself and have a holiday. Eat, drink, and be merry. Don't drink alcohol. Don't drink and drive. Don't even drink ordinary drinks and drive. Try to be on the path, on track. Enjoy with all your intensity to take advantage of it. This is a very good opportunity, like every other opportunity, to remember your master. Opportunity to remember that we've got a great opportunity and we've been initiated by a perfect living master. There's nothing like it. And we found a true friend in our life. Enjoy the friendship. Enjoy the friendship externally as much as you can find, which is not much. Internally, as much as you can find, which is a lot. So therefore, I wish you all very, very happy holidays. And also wish you very happy New Year 2011. I am sure there will be more spiritual development in the area where we are sitting, in this country itself, the next year, than has ever happened in the history before. And I am saying this on the authority of my own master, who went that far as to say that the axis of spirituality itself, which had been focused for centuries in the East, is shifting to the West. He also said that this axis of spirituality, where a number of perfect living masters appear to take care of a larger number of truth seekers, is shifting itself into the West and is localized itself in a big way about this time in North America. He said that. So I am just quoting something that the great master said long, long ago. He said that about 60 years ago, the statement that I am repeating. And in truth, I must tell you as friends that I was living a very comfortable life in India. I had a good job. I was offered the job of governorship of a state. I was offered a job as the cabinet of the government there. I was offered a job with a huge house and to do nothing but make other people work. I'd get a big pension. I left all that. Why did I come here? I came here because of great master's words. There is spiritual access of spirituality. It's going to shift to this country. And you will have more spirituality here than in the East, which will all become involved in building material things. More factories, more industries, more money. And this will go from having too much money, not giving any happiness, not giving real spirituality, back into the spiritual path. He predicted this. And because of the prediction, I rushed here to take a ringside seat. And I am sitting on the ringside seat and watching that what he said is actually happening. So, blessings of the great master for all of you, and enjoy your holiday. Thank you. Now there will be a song. I was trying to play on my iPhone, on the YouTube. It's a song that I heard Tiki singing in Minnesota when we were there. And it's a beautiful song. It's a very favorite song of mine. And I was very surprised to walk into, in Wisconsin, what did I hear in Wisconsin first time? At that Christine Center. To walk into a hall where people are sitting as she is singing this Indian Punjabi song from the scriptures of the Sikh religion, Guru Granth Sahib, where there were 10 gurus came. The fifth one was the most vocal and gave more information than any other guru out of the 10. And he sang this song. And she singing that song, the same song, in Indian language. I was very impressed. I stood like this. I was wondering what's going on here. Where am I? I thought for a moment. And that song says that whatever you ask from a perfect living master. Whatever you ask from the Lord, He will give you. It's that simple. But the caveat which is hidden in this song is, you have to ask with full faith and love and devotion. If you have full faith and love and devotion, you get whatever you want. The song also says that He has power over all the 9 universes. In spite of that power, He still puts His hand on your head and grants you the blessings that nobody else can ever grant. The same song says, if He gives you a hug, birds chirping? Crickets chirping. If He gives you a hug, Kantalai, that song says, He removes so many of your negative things, vices of yours, that He wipes out a lot of your karma merely by giving you a hug, a person, a human being. I mean, this is amazing that such a song showing the power of the Lord in human form can do. Just talking to you, shaking your hand, doing something can have that power to remove so much of your karma. I was very impressed. And I said, Tiki, you must sing the song when we celebrate our holidays. Would you like to hear that song, Tiki? Okay, I've given you the meaning already. Whatever you ask from your master, He'll give you. With all His power of the 9 worlds, He puts His hand just on your head and grants you so much grace. It wipes out so much negativity that is standing in your way. He gives you a hug and He wipes out so much vices that were standing in the way and creating karma for you, and you are free from them. Whatever you ask from your master, He will give you. With love and devotion, ask for it.
Jo mange Satguru apane te, soi deve. Jo mange Satguru apane te, soi deve. Chaturati Saki no Bale Apana Sire Uparakara Dario Kirpa Kata Kevalokana Kino Dasaka Duka Bidario Jo mange Satguru apane te, soi deve. Jo mange Satguru apane te, soi deve.
Thank you, Tiki. Thank you. There is some food for celebration on the tables behind you. And I know many people have been waiting for that. When will he stop talking? So we can go to the real celebration. Because so many functions we have where people think that eating the food is the real celebration. I agree. I only say that not only this food should be eaten, which can sometimes be overeaten or something. There is a lot of delicious food inside ourselves. In meditation, you go in the very first stage of your experiences. You can have sensory experiences which are nothing of this world can match. So if you are interested in good food and have a feast without adding weight to you, without adding calories, that's the place to go to. Not this table, but this food is also pretty good. I went and had a look at it. When I was looking at it, I was reminded of a story, a short story, then that won the first prize in a short story competition. And I read it shortly after I arrived in this country. And that short story was about a man who wanted to find a soulmate. And he could not find a soulmate. He didn't know how to find one. He was single. He had to buy his own groceries. He had to buy his own detergents to wash his laundry. So he had gone to the store to buy laundry, packet of detergent. When he went there, he saw Tide and Dawn and so many other names. He said, I don't know which one to buy. So he closed his eyes to just go and pick up one box, whichever comes in his hand. When he closed his eyes, was about to walk, a woman passed by, he caught hold of her. He knew that was a soulmate. It came so suddenly, so he married her. In the marriage, the short story says, when he married her, there was a big feast. Now the author of the story says, feast was all laid out, all the food was laid out on the tables. But where was God? God was in the basement. He was looking at the electric meters to see how much grace he has distributed the last month. Because the author says, electricity in this age is grace. There's no difference. You can measure the grace by the happenings in your life. You go to a meter and see it from the electric meter. So God was measuring the grace, how much he had given in the last month. And then the author, who's the man who marries that woman, he says, I was standing there, the food tables were in front of me, and I could see the footsteps. God coming up the steps from the basement. And I knew he was behind me. I said, he is in full support. He's supporting my wedding. So I peeped with my corner of my eye to see, is God looking at me to support me? No, I behold, God is looking at the food. So he was blessing the food. So with this story, all the food is now blessed. So you go and enjoy it. Thank you.
जो मांगे ठाकुर अपने ते सोई सोई देवे नानक दास मुख ते जो बोले इहाँ उहाँ सच